Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Josh Halter, owner and founder of The Bio Dude. You can visit my website, thebiodude.com. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram. Of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel and come to my retail shop here in Houston, Texas from the hours of 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. And today, I have an empty 24 by 18 by 18 Exoterra in front of me that I'm going to be building for a pair of Carpet Chameleons that I purchased from Frank Payne of Living Art Designs. He posted a great tear sheet and got it published onto the Reptiles magazine. So I'm really excited to get these guys in on Tuesday. I'll make sure to post a follow-up video in a couple weeks after these guys have become established. So I am taking a little bit different of a route this time. Very similar to my Borneo eared frog enclosure. I have two of my SuperGrow layers. I have two 24-inch pieces and I have two stacked on top of each other. That is going to be my drainage layer. And at the front here, since these chameleons like to have a pretty high humidity, between 60 and 75% with good airflow, I will be having a little bit more of a drainage available to them, as well as for maintenance for myself with how often we are going to be misting the enclosure. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the rocks that I'm going to be using to stamp the terrarium front. So for starters, I'm just going to put in the rocks at the bottom, and I am going to be holding this down. And then the end game plan is going to be sloping it to the front. Now, if water collects at the front, it is not going to be deep. It is only at maximum going to be 1/4 of an inch. Carpet Chameleons are from the coastline in Africa. I want to say like Southwest Africa, but don't back me up on that. So I am going to be providing a hot spot as well as lots of UVB options for them. And as you can see, I'm just kind of stacking the rocks on in here. Alright, I should be able to dump. Nope, don't want that. We gotta rinse these off, we got all the particulates off. And I don't want to dump that particulate water into the bottom. Now it is going to take a couple days for the rocks to really, get clean, but it'll happen pretty quickly. I am not going to be having any type of filtration in here. Instead, I am going to be putting in, just doing water changes. So I'm going to get that right there. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to take a look and make sure that I'm happy with how this looks. I am. Looks pretty good, looks pretty even. Alright. Next, what I have here, as you can see my Terra Flora right here in the back. And this is one of my culture mixes of my Terra Flora that has the BioShot. Actually, it doesn't have the BioShot, but it does have, it's already pre-mixed with the proper amount that I need, with some microfauna already in there. So I'm going to dump in the BioShot into the bag. And then I am going to simply take my substrate and I'm going to dump it in here. So I am going to be offering, my pair a good amount of substrate in the back, especially for burrowing purposes for them in case they want to lay eggs. Let's take a look here. So I have a good amount of stuff already mixed in, as you can see. I have some leaf litter mixed in, I have a little bit of sand, a bunch of different stuff in here. But it is mainly my Terra Flora. Here is pretty solid mix right here. So on the top, as you can see, I have my 22-inch LED. I also have the Zoom Med 5-watt nano on the top. That is going to be used for the hot spot that I'm going to be giving them. And of course, their UVB, a 24-inch Rectasun 5.0, which will do the trick just nicely for their UVB requirements. Now I do like these UVBs. These fixtures. They are the thinner T5 high output lamps. They last about 8 months. You need to replace them every 8 months. So you can see how I have the rock layer in the front, and then my substrate in the back, with my drainage layer completely hidden by the rocks. I'm just going to add in some of my bug cultures as well, just a further reinforcer in there for the bioactivity. So next thing that I'm going to do is I want to try to create a separation between the rocks and the substrate, just to help me out a little bit to keep it clean. So I have some of my pillow moss, which is what I'm going to use. And I'm going to take the different pieces of my pillow moss, and I am just going to simply put them along the edges here. Actually, I'm going to use that piece last. Now you can really use anything. You really don't have to use anything, but I'm choosing to, because in my opinion it looks really nice, and it does bring in a little bit of a diverse approach to your terrarium with having like a pillow moss wall in front of the water's front. I think that looks pretty nice. There we go. And then what that's going to do right there is, you can see I have a little bit left, and I have a little bit of a barrier. I have a pretty solid amount of substrate in there, but I am going to add a little bit more, just for the sake. Okay, there we go. I like that. I think that looks pretty good. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to add my AAA new sphagnum moss. And the best way that I found to operate the moss is you're just going to open it at the top right like this. Then you're just going to go ahead and just dump the water in. Now the best consistency in a tropical setup for this moss is wet but not dripping. That's what I found to work the best. And that's where I got it at. So I'm going to take the moss that I got right here. See, it's pretty wet, but it's not dripping, and I'm going to put that right on the top of the substrate, right like this. And you can mix it in. I'd like to, because it creates nutrition for your soil as it is being broken down by the BioShot and the springtails and isopods. I have a lot of people ask me, Josh, what is the BioShot? How does it work with the bugs? Does it work without the bugs? And the answer is the bugs are replaced by the BioShot, but you can still use them. Essentially, as the bugs break down decomposing matter, decomposing organic matter, a side effect for that is what the BioShot creates. But instead, the BioShot not only jumpstarts those bacterial and fungal processes, it also puts out macronutrients for your plants much faster than the isopods and springtails do, really helping you, making sure your plants don't die from shock. Pretty much makes your green thumb a little bit bigger. Next thing I'm going to do, I sell my cork bark pieces. I like to put these in because these also slowly break down and they become microbial hotspots, so to speak. And I am just going to bury the pieces and mix them into the substrate. Works out great. You'll pull them out. Okay, deal with that. Okay, next step with this, so we have our sphagnum moss, cork bark pieces mixed in BioShot. Next thing that I'm going to do is start putting in some of my cork bark, or some of my pieces of wood. Now, most people will always keep chameleons in screen cages. Carpets are one of the exceptions, in my opinion, that do great being outside of the screen cages. And they also are they're smaller chameleons, so it gives you options as far as caging is concerned. The most important thing with chameleons is that you're managing airflow. They are prone, even though they're from a tropical environment, they are prone to fungal infections and upper respiratory infections. So it's very important that we are making sure to provide the proper husbandry. So what I'm really going for here is just essentially a lot of root bases to create a lot of small stepping stones for them a lot of twigs, a lot of different wood and things like that as they're chameleons. They like to go throughout different levels of the terrarium. And then for the first plant, I'm going to go with one of these beautiful, get this will work. So, let's see here. And this is a good example of the plants that I sell. They're always established in 4-inch pots. Try to keep my prices as low as possible, but you do get good sized plants from me. A lot of my customers will tend to that as well. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to put this right here in the back, away from the heat bulb. Yeah. So this is one of those plants that isn't going to dig the heat bulb very much. The heat bulb that I have on here is a 40 watt, and I might drop it down to a 25, depending on how hot it actually makes the terrarium itself. I'm actually going to pull this out because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with this yet. The next thing I'm going to put in is an arrowhead vine. Now the arrowhead vines are nice because they can handle a little bit more heat, but they can't be directly underneath the heat dome. So I'm going to go ahead and put the arrowhead vine, and put it right here. You can see I'm getting a lot of depth in my substrate here. So what this is going to do, this is going to go up to about here, and it's going to branch out all over the place, giving the chameleons some options. And next, I have a creeping fig. And what I'm really excited for with the creeping fig is that you don't necessarily have to plant this. You can have part of it planted, and then the rest of it, you can just put it right in the water. And that's what I plan on doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plant the creeping fig here onto the side. I'm going to shove it in, and then I'm going to rip this part off here. I'm just going to put it right here onto the ghost wood, right here at the base. So my thought process is not only is the creeping fig going to grow up because it's going to be getting constant water source, it's going to start covering the water and the top, creating more vines for my chameleons, for their little fingers to grasp onto. Then I have another begonia that I think would do great back here in the corner. Right there. So I'm going to take my begonia. This is a Rex begonia, which I do sell these on my website. These are one of my favorites because of the swirl at the top. Really beautiful, and they're very easy to propagate, which is nice. So they're good for like the beginners, in my opinion, when begonias are considered. I dig it. So I also have some resurrection fern logs in here for more diversity. So here you can see this one's completely covered in moss. What's cool about these ferns is they'll completely open up and then they're shut depending on the humidity. I am going to be running 2 Mist King nozzles in here that are going to be going at the same time. And I'm actually going to be putting this bad boy, I think up here is good. And then the begonia covers it. I got a smaller one. I got 2 smaller ones right here and here. That I'm all about giving my guys options. Options are very important with chameleons. Places to go to get different humidity levels. Many places to climb, many places that they can feel that they can successfully blend in. So they can go, hunt a little bit more cleaner, so to speak. They're not as stressed out. Not too bad. And then I'm gonna got another resurrection. This is what it looks like in the dry form, as you can see right here. I can deal with. Okay, put that there. I don't like this here. And to be honest with you, it's too bare back there. So what I'm going to put back there, this one I'd say has an 85% chance of surviving. They usually do just fine under the heat. This is a Photonia. They're very hardy, but with the volume of the heat that is right under there, being like an 85, 90 degree hot spot, I'm not sure how it will do, but we're gonna find out, and I'll make sure that I update you guys the upcoming videos. Okay, and then I got this one piece of, I just broke it to make it more manageable. That's exactly what I wanted. So, it's very empty in the back, but my plan is that once the plants start to grow up, it won't be. And then it's gonna be very, very lush and very viney for them, which is exactly what I'm going for. And then I'm just gonna take some of my leaf litter as my final touch. And carpets love leaf litter, guys, they love it. And I'm gonna make sure to put a lot of magnolia, because what's gonna happen is the springs and isos in here, I would say the one benefit of using springs and isos in conjunction with the BioShop is the fact that the springs and isos will gather to the leaves and create feeding zones for your smaller reptiles and amphibians. So if you're using dart frogs, pygmy chameleons, carpet chameleons, you know, smaller reptiles that like to eat microfauna, I highly recommend that you do it if you're gonna go bio. But I always recommend people to definitely use the BioShop, because it makes your world of keeping plants alive and keeping your soil healthy 1,000 times easier. And that is the whole point, making it easy so we can provide our reptiles and amphibians the best care and husbandry possible, because that is what they deserve. So, all right, next I'm gonna take some distilled water here, and then I am going to, excuse that, sorry about that, guys. The phone was supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. And I'm gonna put a little bit of water in here. Now this is distilled water, so it's completely safe to use. Excellent. So what you see is the deepest it's ever gonna be. And that's really so that way, it might go up about another 1/4 of an inch. But that's so that way I can consistently keep an eye on the drainage layer, so that way I can easily maintain it, things like that. Now what I'm going to be feeding these guys, since they are smaller chameleons, they are going to be getting a varied diet of assorted worms and things like that. But for starters, I am going to be feeding them one of my fruit fly cultures that I do sell locally in my shop. So as you can see, this is what you can expect from my Heidi Eye. This one's going to boom tomorrow. And that's with my universal fly media, which I sold literally 3 tons of in 2017. I will be gut loading the crickets with my bug grub, which has a lot of your carotenoids, and beets, carrots, oregano, bee pollen, kale, a couple things to say the least, that are very high in vitamin A and a lot of other different vitamins that reptiles specifically utilize for homeostasis. And it also has the carotenoids in it, so they can actually synthesize it. A lot of gut loaders don't have any carotenoids in them. If they're not getting the carotenoids, the process, the vitamins, they're not going to get anything from it. Then I will be dusting the crickets with, and the bugs when I can, with Pink Label and Blue Label. I stand behind this stuff. I've been using it for years. I go Pink Label Pink Label every feeding, and then I do Herptivite about once every 10 days. You can also, don't have to use this every time. You have to be careful. You make sure you don't give them too much calcium. Let me take a look here. So, and guys, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. The Resurrection Fern logs are going to open nicely, and the chameleons have a lot of options, and that's what's important. And guys, again, my name's Josh Halter. I'm owner and founder of The Bio Dude. You can visit my website, thebiodude.com. I really appreciate everyone's support. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for every single one of my followers today. And definitely, guys, please check out if you're in Houston, come check out my store. We're at 15502 Old Galveston Road, number 212 in Webster. Dude abides.